Hi everyone, welcome to HSAM 2400, week number 2. For those of you that don't know me, although I think most everyone here does, I'm Dr. Jillian Harrington. I will be your instructor for the term. And this video, I'll put this video up each week. We don't do it in week 1 because one of the main purposes of this video is kind of a recap of the week prior. But so we'll talk a little bit about the week prior each week, as well as go over some quiz questions that were missed, and then also talk about the week to come. So helpful information, hopefully, for you in this particular video each week. So last week, obviously, the focus of our discussion is going to be on law and ethics throughout the term. This is one of my favorite areas of the healthcare world. I was a compliance officer, so my entire focus was law and ethics and making sure that we were staying on the right side of the law as well as the right side of ethical dilemmas. So it was, this is a perfect fit for me as an instructor to talk a little bit about how law and ethics impact us in the healthcare sector. So last week we just kind of got an intro, had a couple of a couple of discussions through your written assignment as well as in your flip grid for the week. And then obviously you had a quiz each week. Well, I think each week in this class we have a quiz. Each week you'll have an assignment of some sort. So it may be a group assignment, maybe a paper, maybe something of that nature. And then you'll also have a discussion. So the discussion will either be in the flip grid, which is the video discussion board product, or it will be in the regular written discussion board. The one thing that I asked was that with the flip grid is obviously you want to take notes, you want to prepare for your time spent recording, but avoid just writing a script and reading it. That kind of defeats the purpose of the flip grid. The flip grid is to give us the opportunity to improve upon our communication skills and to also be able to talk on the fly. So my hope is that you will all get comfortable with taking some notes and discussing from those notes, as well as answering your colleagues in the class in that same way. So in week 2, we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing this week. We're talking about overall things like malpractice, torts, etc. So there's a lot for us to professional conduct, lots of different areas that we'll be looking at this week in the classroom. And tort reform is another issue that we deal with. We've got a short video on that. You have your flip grid this week to discuss some professional conduct issues. And then you have a group assignment this week. You've been divided into 2 groups. And the expectation is that everyone will participate in the groups as they are given. Everyone needs to participate. And at the end of the group assignment, and actually I'll probably send the forms out today, but at the end of the group assignment, everyone will be forwarding back to me via email. You'll submit your assignment to the classroom, but you'll be submitting back to me via email a self and peer assessment. So you'll assess your own work in the group as well as your colleagues' work in the group. And this does impact your grade. So if you've got a group of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students, and 4 students say that you didn't do anything in the group, you didn't respond to any emails, you didn't participate in the discussions, then it's likely you would receive a 0 for that assignment. So the purpose of group assignments in a healthcare administration program is to get you used to what it's going to be like in the real workplace, where we always work in a team-based environment. So you need to work in that environment here as well. The other thing I will say about group assignments is it's not to, like, this happens to be a case study of a situation that's currently ongoing. So it isn't that I want, we're going to put together a PowerPoint presentation, 8 to 10 slides. It's not like I just want every student to create 2 slides of their own thoughts on the topic. It's a group project. So there should be a single group discussion of the topic, and either the pro or con, depending on which side you're assigned. So think about it. We're looking for some group thoughts on this, not just each student writing their own 2 slides on the topic. That is not a group project. That's a project divided 5 ways or 4 ways. So make sure everyone is doing work into input to the final project, and even if you have a personal disagreement with, with that side of the argument, it's very important as healthcare administrators that we see both sides of an argument. So I may be very for something like Medicare for all, but I need to also understand why people are against that, and understand both sides of the argument. We need to be able to play the devil's advocate all of the time, because you're going to be faced with that, folks that have those views. So it's really important that we understand that. So that's your group assignment. We have a quiz, like I said, I think every week, and then also this Edpuzzle summary will be there each week. So, so let's talk a little bit about some of the quiz questions and ones that folks got wrong. So this first question: a common law principle in which courts applied previous decisions to subsequent cases involving similar facts and questions is referred to as what? And there were several different options given to us, but the correct answer is stare decisis. So as you'll see in the law, a lot of legal proceedings, legal terminology comes from Latin. So in this case, stare decisis is the terminology that discusses this principle. And what this really is you may think about it as oh, the word just fell out of my head, like past practice, or gosh, I can't think of the word that I'm looking for. But if something has happened previously, it sets a precedent. So it's really very similar to that concept of setting a precedent. Past practice has been this. So when courts create common law, which is law that's created out of court outcomes, out of judicial outcomes, they will consider stare decisis, which means that they'll consider the views of previous courts on the same topic. Next question. The blank is an independent, nonpartisan office governed by a board comprised of private citizens that provides more public review and insight into the ethical conduct of members of the House of Representatives. And this was really just about understanding and reading what was in the textbook and talking about that. So it looks like the one that was most frequently chosen when the correct answer wasn't chosen is the House of Representatives Committee on Ethics. That is not the House of Representatives Committee on Ethics is part of the House of Representatives, so that is not an independent, nonpartisan office, whereas the Office of Congressional Ethics is an independent, not part of the House of Representatives, independent, nonpartisan office that governs potential ethical issues with those in Congress. Important organization to be aware of. Next question. The body of law dealing with relationships between private parties and government is, and the answer here is public law. So I'll just talk a little bit about public law versus private law versus common law. So, so public law, when you think about situations where you have a private party, such as let's say a healthcare organization, and the government, so the federal government, state government, whichever it might be, there are lots of regulations, law and regulation that needs to be followed by healthcare organizations given their interaction with government entities. So the first one that comes to my head with my background in compliance is the False Claims Act. So if you were to file a false claim, maybe you put erroneous diagnosis codes on the claim, maybe you falsified the documentation, etc., that would be a violation of the False Claims Act. And the False Claims Act is a public law, which means it governs how you as a private citizen or as a private organization interact with the government, because you're making claims to Medicare, Medicaid. Those are government programs. On the flip side, there are also laws that have nothing to do with the government other than the fact that the government's the one creating them. So, maybe trespassing. So I may have, a big backyard or something, or even just a wooded area out behind my house, and maybe deer run through there. So when it comes time for hunting season, I may have people traipsing through my backyard. Well, those those are private people. I'm a private person, but that relationship is governed by a type of law called private law. And private law, trespassing is a good example of a private law. It governs that relationship between me and the people trespassing on my property, and that is inappropriate, and they obviously should not be doing that. So when you're talking about relationships between people, that's private law. When you're talking about relationships between people and the government, that's public law. And then the highest level is common law. So common law is when a court renders an opinion on something that kind of creates a new type of law. So for example, probably a really good example of common law, although controversial, is Roe v. Wade. So Roe v. Wade is what made it possible for women to have abortions in this country because of the decision that the Supreme Court made. So it had nothing to, there were laws in place that were saying that could not happen, but the Supreme Court overrode that. And so that created that freedom for women that women enjoy in some states still today, but it created that level of freedom, and that was common law. They didn't go back to the government and say, hey, write a new law. That common law is what protected us. And common law concept comes to us from England. That's how England is not the same, obviously not a democracy like we have here, although they're getting closer to that type of a setting, but their common law is much of the law that rules their land because they've been there for so long, and they have so many judicial decisions to rely on over time. Now, it doesn't mean that one judge is going to make the same decision as another, and sometimes common law gets very confusing because they conflict, but that's when typically the third person involved in that ends up taking it to yet another court to make a decision based on the confliction between the two types of common law. But so public law, government, relationships between government and private people or organizations. Private law, relationships between people or organizations, but not the government. Common law comes to us from the judiciary or the courts. So our question, this question was, body of law dealing with relationships between private parties and government, that's public law. The next question was, blank laws govern relationships between people, and that was private law. So that was just a little insight into those two questions. If there were other questions that you missed, you want some more detail on, please feel free to reach out. If you want an answer right away, make sure that you reach out to me via email or phone, or stop by my office hours. There will be a question at the end of this Ed Puzzle. It says, do you have any further questions? I don't answer them until I do the grading the following week. So I will answer them, and you'll have to go back into Ed Puzzle to see them. But if you want an answer more quickly than that, please just feel free to drop me a note, give me a call, stop by office hours, or set up another office hour outside of my standard ones, and I'm happy to talk with you further about that. So that's all we got. Have a good week, and I'll see everyone in the discussion this week.